that being said, kind of tell us a little bit like how you got started in real estate. Like, did you just wake up and say one day and just say, I'm going to get into real estate?
No, actually, the weird thing is, well, I started when I was young, and
Okay.
I had graduated from the University of Colorado. I'm from Colorado, was born and raised there, military brat.
Okay.
And my mom had gone to some real estate investing seminar thing, like now that I host at the Michigan Real Estate Investors Group. She went to a seminar like that years ago.
Okay.
And she heard a speaker, I don't remember who it is, but she bought the guy's course because she said, Wendy, she told me later, like I knew that real estate investing was a way to future financial freedom. So she got home with the course though, and there was one big problem at home, and it was my dad. He said, no, we're not investing in real estate. We're not going to do that. So she gave the course to me when I was moving to Michigan. And on the way to Michigan, I started listening to that course the whole way in the car because I had to drive a couple days, right? So I'm like listening to it over and over. And back then it was cassettes, right? In the 80s. And I remember thinking when I was driving, like, gosh, I want to be a real estate investor. I mean, I don't want to go take that job I just took. I mean, I want to start this right away. But I did take my job. And I remember it said that you should join a real estate investor group if you're serious about investing. So I did. I joined a local group in Michigan and learned about real estate investing. And I remember, sitting there in one of the meetings, and we were at round tables, because if you wanted to go have dinner first, then you would sit at a round table. If you wanted to come to the seminar, you came later. Well, I did the dinner because I'd eat anyway. And my company paid for it because I was in a hotel, because they moved so many people into Michigan at the time that we were all living in hotels and motels. So that's kind of how it started, Randy. I had an opportunity to buy a house to live in versus just renting. And all the apartments were 6 months waiting list. So we were in hotels, and I was everywhere. I mean, it was just, the whole thing was gridlocked. And so as I was sitting, at this meeting one night, it was a round table, and everyone said, like, where do you live? Where do you live? Where do you live? And it got to me, and they go, where do you live? And I go, Red Roof Inn, room 101. And they're like, what? And I go, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm one of those people, blah, blah, blah. And they go, well, why don't you just buy a house? And I go, that's funny. And they go, no, seriously, why don't you? And I said, well, let's see. Let's start with, I make $10 an hour. And they said, so? And I said, well, I don't have any savings. So I don't know how to do it. So, like
just,
they were looking for me.
Okay.
Yes. What's your excuse? What's your real excuse, Wendy? And I was like, I just didn't know. Like, I didn't even know anything. And someone said, well, why don't you just use your credit card, get a credit card, and, take a cash advance, and that could be your down payment. Well, back in the 80s, you could do that. You didn't have to season funds. You could just take a cash advance, put it right in your account, and that was my down payment. So I bought my first property in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. And, and back then, it was a 3-bedroom, and it was $438 a month. And, so I rented 2 of the bedrooms to 2 ladies in my hotel at $250 a month each. So I was making like $62 a month, which paid my rent, my credit card payment. So I was living free, and I thought, well, I'm so cool. This is really cool. Well, they didn't call it house hacking back then, but that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
So I house hacked, I guess that's what it is. And I lived free. So that worked out really, really well for me. And that's how I got started. And then I started learning, I did that a few times, but then I learned about creative financing, which kept me from having to use credit cards and debt and things like that, because I didn't know about that in the beginning.
And just to let people know out there, you can't do that now. You can't put you can't put your down payment on a house through a cash advance on a credit card. Right. You just can't, unfortunately.
Well, if you sit there for like maybe 90 or 120 days or however long it has to season where they don't question it, then maybe. But I mean, you really don't want to do that anyways, because there's creative ways you can buy real estate without doing that.
The idea is to stay creative no matter